Let's get something straight right from the start. The moment you begin chasing someone who is ignoring you, you're not just running after a person, you're running away from yourself. You're abandoning the most sacred thing you possess, your self-respect. And that's not just a cliché, that's psychology, that's human behavior at its core. Because every action you take is a reflection of what you believe you're worth. If you're chasing someone who can't even give you the basic courtesy of acknowledgement, you're essentially announcing to the world, and more importantly to yourself, their attention is more valuable than my dignity. And that belief, left unchecked, will poison everything, your confidence, your relationships, and your future. See, people don't lose themselves all at once. It's never one big decision. It's the small compromises. It's the unanswered message you excuse away. It's the silence you tolerate. It's the distance you chase, hoping it will close. And each time you do, you shrink a little bit. You teach your nervous system that love must be earned through pursuit, that your value must be proven. And over time, you stop being the chooser. You become the one waiting to be chosen. That is the fastest way to erode the foundation of self-worth. Now, think about the psychology of self-respect. It's not about arrogance. It's not about walking around thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about an unshakable internal standard that says, I will not abandon myself to gain someone else's approval. When you hold that standard, your actions align with it. You stop chasing not because you're bitter, but because you understand the cost. You understand that every time you run after someone who ignores you, you're teaching them how little effort they have to invest. And people respond to the standard you set. If your standard is low, their effort will be too. Here's the paradox: the more you chase, the less they value you. It's human nature. We value what's rare, what's not easily available, what has boundaries. If you're always available, always the one initiating, always the one proving, you stop being a choice and start becoming an option. And no one cherishes an option. But when you hold your ground, when you refuse to hand over your self-worth for scraps of attention, you shift the power dynamic. You're no longer seeking validation. You are the validation. And this isn't just about relationships. This principle touches every part of your life. Friendships, work, partnerships. The energy of chasing is the energy of lack. It says, I need you to complete me. I need you to see me. But the energy of self-respect is abundance. It says, I see myself clearly. And if you can't meet me here, I will keep walking. That shift changes everything. You stop attracting people who take you for granted and start attracting people who rise to meet your value. You must remember, attention that has to be begged for is never worth having. Real connection, real love, real respect, they don't require you to run after them. They flow towards you when you stand firmly in your worth. And the people who truly see you, who truly value you, will never put you in a position where you have to chase them just to be noticed. So stop running, stand still, stand tall, let the world come to you. Because the person who respects themselves commands a level of respect from others that chasing could never earn. And if you take nothing else from this message, take this: you are not here to convince us. Silence. It's one of the most powerful forms of communication we have, and yet it's the one most people refuse to listen to. When someone ignores you, you often tell yourself stories to fill the space. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they didn't see my message. Maybe I did something wrong. But here's the truth: silence is never empty. It always carries a message. And when someone chooses to withhold their attention, their words, or their presence, they're telling you exactly where you stand in their life. The problem is, most people are too afraid to face that truth, so they chase noise instead of learning from silence. Ignoring someone is not a neutral act, it's a statement. It says, you're not my priority right now. And the mistake we make is thinking that if we try a little harder, say the right thing, or give a little more, we can change that message. But what you don't realize is that their silence isn't just a lack of communication, it's a reflection of their capacity. It's about who they are, not who you are. People can only meet you at the level of their own emotional awareness. If someone can't show up, if they choose to withdraw, it's not your job to chase them into presence. It's your job to recognize the message and adjust your energy accordingly. When you learn to interpret silence correctly, it becomes one of your greatest teachers. Because silence reveals truth without disguise. It shows you where respect is missing, where effort is one-sided, and where alignment no longer exists. And it's not just about relationships, it's about life. Life has a way of going quiet on us too. Opportunities dry up, people drift away, the path gets foggy. In those moments, our instinct is to panic, to push harder, to demand clarity. But silence is feedback. It's the universe saying, be still, observe. There's something you're not seeing yet. You see, in psychology, avoidance behavior is a coping mechanism. People withdraw not always because they dislike you, but because facing you means facing something uncomfortable within themselves. Maybe your presence triggers their insecurity. Maybe your confidence highlights their own self-doubt. Or maybe your love demands a level of maturity they haven't reached yet. Their silence is not an attack, it's an escape. But once you understand that, you stop taking it personally. You stop internalizing their distance as rejection and start recognizing it as redirection. And here's the deeper truth: when you stop reacting to silence with fear, you gain control. Most people chase because they can't handle the discomfort of being ignored. They interpret silence as a threat to their worth. But when you've done the inner work, When your self-worth no longer depends on someone's response, silence becomes peace. You start to see it as clarity, as protection even. You realize that not everyone deserves your words, your energy, or your access. You learn that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. You teach people how to treat you not by what you demand, but by what you tolerate. If someone's silence consistently speaks louder than their effort, believe it. Don't rewrite the story to make it more comfortable. Don't chase noise that was never meant for you. Because every time you do, you lower your standard and weaken your signal to the world about what you deserve. So when someone ignores you, listen, not with your ears, but with your awareness. Silence will tell you everything words can't. It will reveal truth, expose priorities, and remind you where your energy no longer belongs. The people who value you will never make you guess. And the ones who do, let them go. Because silence, when heard correctly, isn't rejection, it's direction. It's the universe pointing you back to where your attention truly belongs within yourself. Every time you chase someone who's not chasing you back, you're closing the door on something greater that's trying to find you. You may not see it in the moment, because when emotions are high and your heart's invested, the instinct to hold on feels natural. You tell yourself, if I just keep trying, they'll see my value. But what you don't realize is that all the time, all the energy, all the mental space you're giving to someone who doesn't reciprocate, that's the same energy you're stealing from your own growth, your peace, and your future connections. You're closing doors that were meant to open simply because you're too focused on one that's already shut. See, life operates through energy and focus. What you focus on expands. When you pour your attention into someone who's emotionally unavailable or indifferent, you create a cycle of scarcity. You start believing that love has to be earned through effort, that connection has to be built through proving your worth. But the truth is, you can't force alignment. You can't chase someone into awareness. People see what they want to see, and if they've already decided not to value you, more effort won't change that. It will only make you more invisible, because desperation blinds you to reality. You begin to mistake effort for progress, but they're not the same thing. Think about this. When you chase someone, your energy says, I lack. You're broadcasting to the universe, I don't have enough, and I need this person to complete me. But when you step back, when you redirect that energy inward, your signal changes. It becomes, I am enough. That's when attraction begins to work in your favor. Because people are drawn not to those who chase, but to those who radiate self-assurance. The person who knows their value doesn't need to run after anything. The right people and opportunities are naturally pulled toward them. And let's be honest, sometimes the reason you're chasing is because you're afraid of the silence that comes when you stop. You're afraid of the void, that quiet space where you have to sit with yourself and confront what's really driving the chase: fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone. But here's the paradox: those fears don't dissolve by running from them. They dissolve when you face them. When you learn to sit in the discomfort and say, even if they walk away, I am still whole. That's when real freedom begins. That's when the chains of emotional dependency start to break. You were not meant to beg for love. You were meant to share it. You were not meant to convince anyone to stay. You were meant to be met, matched, and respected. When you chase, you distort that balance. You make it about pursuit instead of connection, about survival instead of fulfillment. And that kind of dynamic never lasts. Because the harder you run after someone, the further they pull away. Not because they're cruel, but because people instinctively resist being cornered. True connection happens when both sides choose it freely, not when one side demands it desperately. The moment you stop chasing what's running, the universe starts aligning what's meant to find you. That's not spiritual fluff, it's cause and effect. When your energy is no longer consumed by someone who's not showing up, you become available for everything that will. And that's when new doors start opening, doors to peace, to purpose, to relationships that don't drain but elevate you. So don't fear what leaves when you stop chasing. Fear what you'll miss if you don't, because the more time you spend convincing someone to see your worth, the less time you have to live it. Every minute spent trying to wake up someone who's asleep to your value is a minute stolen from the life you're meant to build. Stop running toward resistance. Walk toward alignment. Let what's meant for you meet you halfway. The truth is, the right people don't need to be chased. They choose you back. And that truth alone can change the entire way you see relationships, connection, and even self-worth. Because the moment you understand it, you stop seeing love or attention as something you have to earn, and you start realizing it's something that naturally flows between two aligned people. Mutual energy, mutual respect, mutual effort. That's what healthy relationships are built on. Not pursuit, not convincing, and definitely not emotional negotiation. When someone truly values you, they don't make you guess. They don't communicate through absence. They don't need to test your patience or your loyalty just to feel powerful. The right people make it easy. Not because life or love is easy, but because they're emotionally available enough to meet you halfway. You see, the relationships that stand the test of time are the ones that are rooted in reciprocity. Both people are reaching, both people are investing, both people are willing to grow. That's when connection becomes expansion instead of exhaustion. But here's where most people struggle. They confuse intensity with connection. They think the emotional highs and lows, the uncertainty, the chase means something deeper. But intensity without consistency isn't love, it's addiction. And when you're addicted to chasing, you start mistaking chaos for passion and attention for affection. You become drawn to the emotional roller coaster because it feels alive. Yet the truth is, it's not aliveness, it's anxiety. It's your nervous system clinging to unpredictability because it mirrors old emotional patterns. That's why stillness, real mutual connection, can feel foreign at first. When you meet someone who doesn't play games, who doesn't make you question your worth, it can almost feel boring because you've been conditioned to equate calm with a lack of excitement. But calm is where real love lives, stability is where respect grows, and consistency is where trust is built. The right people don't drain your peace, they amplify it. So when you stop chasing those who ignore you, you make room for those who recognize you. You stop fighting for attention and start receiving energy that flows freely toward you. And here's the key. You'll never attract that kind of love while you're still obsessed with proving yourself to people who can't receive it. Because chasing doesn't just send the message that you want someone, it sends the message that you don't believe you deserve to be chosen without effort. You've got to understand that love, at its highest form, is never about control, it's about alignment. The right person will see you, really see you, not as a convenience, but as a choice. They will mirror back your energy, your consistency, your respect. And that's when you'll realize that love isn't something to be pursued, it's something to be experienced, reciprocated, and co-created. When you finally stop chasing, you shift from fear to faith. Faith that the right people will recognize your light without you having to scream for it. Faith that walking away doesn't mean losing. It means trusting that what's meant for you will never need to be forced. That's power. That's maturity. That's freedom. And maybe the most liberating truth of all is this: you don't have to chase love that's already yours. You just have to become the person who no longer accepts less than mutual energy. Because the right ones, the real ones, they don't need to be hunted down. They stand beside you, not ahead of you. They meet you with open eyes and steady hands.